Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the medium episodic running, whatever this is. On this episode, I'm going to finish chewing this cookie. And then after that, we're going to have a nice conversation about Geoff Wilson and his new 14,000 square foot mega card shop. And specifically, we're going to talk about how that relates to influencers, how it relates to trying to parlay your brand into trying to make a business out of it, how that relates to using influencer marketing and a lot of the regular stuff that people talk about. And we're going to talk about some misconceptions people actually have about how rich we all get on this YouTube thing. Not talking about Eric. Eric, in fact, does get rich on it. And Bobbles owns an entire company, so that's a different conversation. But we're going to talk about how, realistically, for the majority of us, how this YouTube thing actually works out. Give you some vague examples that'll help you hopefully get a better understanding based on our experiences. And then we'll have just a general discussion on that. So that and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. Still fine work by you, Eric, on the guitar solo. Mwah.
Thank you.
Chef's
Made
kiss.
my fingertips bleed on that last chord, but it was worth it.
I was going to say it's totally worth it. And it also
Hell of
gave
a
me a chance
job,
to finish
man.
chewing. It also gave me a chance to finish chewing that cookie. So now we all win. We deep down inside, we all win. That's the kind of professionalism that you can bring. Look, we promised 5% more mature. We didn't say 5% more professional.
Oh,
Something's got to give. Something's
Right.
got to give, man. We
You
made
got
our
that.
choice. We made our choice. All right. So as far as this is concerned, we'll start off with what's on our mind. I've got a few things. Obviously, the Packers are actually playing later on tonight. The game should have started by now. I've got a set for the PVR. I look forward to it. Look, all I'm going to say is I bet against the Packers. I bet a parlay of the Packers losing and Josh Jacobs scoring a touchdown, where if that occurs, it's like 4-1. So it's like, look, I'm not saying I lack confidence, but I'm saying that run defense is not great. I got questions about that run. All I'm saying is that I lack confidence in that run defense. That's how I'm going to leave it at that. Week 4, I think, was very interesting. The Cowboys getting destroyed amused me, but that's really the only big takeaway I had from it. That was kind of entertaining. I think Eric, should we officially just declare that for the rest of the season we're not going to talk about the Patriots? The less said about them, the better.
Who?
Exactly. That's kind of what I figured. I figured we'd just skip that. Bubbles, I give you the option to defer on this week's portion of it. We can move on to something else. Hey, hockey season's coming.
Hockey
Jason
season
Robertson's
starts
coming.
tomorrow. Starts
Jason
tomorrow.
Robertson.
Yep. And I was going to mention, because you said we all win, and I was going to say, well, no, we all don't win because, well, the Patriots didn't, and
Well, my
there's
team
only
hasn't played
2
yet. I just
games.
lack confidence.
There's only 2 games all season that I really, really, really ever want the Ravens to win. They could go 2-15, and I would still consider it a successful year. And they lost. And that is when they play the Steelers. I don't care. They just have to beat the Steelers. And they had it. And then they let Kenny Pickett. Yeah, whatever. They lost. Hockey starts tomorrow. All will be well.
All will be well.
I like the confidence. I like it.
As soon as
Fair
the
enough.
puck drops, last year is forgotten about.
Mm.
We have
Well,
to-
I think for your sake, that's probably for the best, Eric. Like, is it your open?
It should have been long forgotten.
Could you drop it now? Could you seriously drop it? To get on with it, please. Just
I
start.
wanted it to drop as soon as the Stanley Cup got lifted over people's heads. I was like, okay, let's go, start again.
Now,
In fairness,
A long summer.
Go.
I was just gonna say, in fairness, Eric kind of predicted the meltdown because he had mentioned it. He brought it up, and then I still say it is very impressive, Eric, that you were wrong about the winner of the entire, not just one round, but the entire Stanley Cup playoffs.
You did not get
That's
nothing
pretty
right.
damn impressive, man.
Nothing right. Yeah. Somebody would have actually gotten a perfect bracket if all they did was do the opposite of whatever it is you just said.
I got
It
every
was
single thing wrong, and I'm supposed to be this big hockey guy and passionate about it. Ins and the outs and the ups and the downs, and the only thing that gave me a little bit of calm is that while I was watching the NHL network, those guys were predicting all the same things I was predicting, and their picks were all blowing up live on TV. And it's like, these are the experts, and they couldn't get it right either. It was a crazy playoffs. It was very exciting, and I'm definitely looking forward to this year. The Bruins are going to be a completely different team than last year. I mean, you lost 2 Hall of Famers. You lost an acquaintance of mine in Nick Foligno, which, one of the nicest guys you're ever going to want to meet on the planet Earth. And he's now in Chicago playing with Bedard. We lost Taylor Hall. He's in Chicago playing with Nick and Bedard. The Bruins are just going to be a completely different team this year. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but they're going to be different.
There you go. Now, speaking of Bedard, since you brought him up, there's 2 thoughts that have come to my mind. First of all, Series 1 of actually flagship is hockey is actually coming in. Bedard won't be in that as a young gun, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's some kind of an insert or some kind of an Easter egg that involves him. That usually is what happens. They'll find a way to sneak him in there, not as a young gun, but they save that for Series 2. But it wouldn't surprise me if they sneak him in one way. So that's the first thought. Second thought is, if you like your future wagers, future bets on your sportsbook of choice, if you have access to one, there's a lot of over-unders on Connor Bedard's point totals. And right now they've got him under 70 points. And I think given the fact they kind of need him to perform, I like the over. Not investment advice, but I'm just throwing it out there. If you can get an over-under of 70-ish or under 70, I like the over. I feel like he's going to get plenty of opportunities to take shots and potentially make a couple of plays happen. Over 70 points would not shock me.
Well, back to Eric throwing the NHL Network under the bus when saying that all of their playoff picks were wrong. Are you telling me that I should not get my hopes up because they threw out the staff picks for who is most likely to win the Stanley Cup? And my Dallas Stars were one of the top teams to be predicted to win the Stanley Cup. It was actually the Stars, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Edmonton Oilers. So should I just write this season off and be like, Eric's already said this staff is wrong. They suck. They can't pick anything. We're not going to do good.
What you want is for him to pick against it, so give him the chance. It's like, if he picks against it, then we win by default, right? By default, right?
They are the experts. They made smart, intelligent picks, as I thought I did, and it just blew up every single round. That the
in a Hindenburg-like disaster.
Oh, it was brutal. It was brutal. All the favorites just kept falling. It was crazy. So, if my early season pick, and I guess I'll say it here, and we can say it again on Friday or in the future. If Colorado stays healthy, I think they got a really, really good shot at it. That would be my. Edmonton's never going to win until they get a goaltender. Until they get an all-star goaltender, Edmonton's never going to win. It does not matter how many points you score if you let in more than you score. And their defense and their goaltending has been abysmal. And that's why
they keep... bold take by you. You're suggesting that the team that scores the most goals wins the game.
Wins.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you have the best player on the planet and some all-stars on your team that are scoring 10 goals a game. If you let up 12, you still lose. So until they get
you're getting both a revelation and some math.
Yeah.
I appreciate when Eric brings in the maths. When he
I
brings that in.
I don't like to maths. It's never been one of my strong suits. Cookie eating and bike riding, I'm good at.
Well, that's why I was eating the cookie. I actually came off.
Bike riding is questionable.
I want to continue the hockey conversation, but let's shelve it to next week because we will have started the season officially, and I'll be decked out in my Stars jersey. I'll come in appropriately attired for such a thing.
I'll dig out a Bruins jersey somewhere.
There you go. Perfect. We'll be properly prepared for that. So look forward to that. For next week, we'll talk a little bit more of the hockeys, but I do want to touch on a couple other things as well.
You got it.
Yeah, we'll touch on that, especially early season. Now, and also at the same time, I'll figure out what my futures pick. I did put in a Dallas Star future pick. I want to say Western Conference. I think I picked Western Conference winner. I think for that one, I did some kind of a future pick along with the Bedard one. So those are the ones that I went with for that. So let's move on to anything else that's on our mind here before we get into some of the bigger topics. Oh, and one other thing I'll quickly mention. I have enjoyed. I have to list. I think I'm gonna have to list some more stuff on eBay, because I've enjoyed way too much of not swell fella PC. A few too many favorites. But some nice ones. I'm not gonna lie, some nice ones. I'm enjoying it and I'm appreciating it. But yeah, there've been some good ones on there, and I was like, ooh, yeah. Sometimes you're like, yeah, you go on a bit of a shopping spree. Sometimes it's like, all right, time to move on and move some stuff to clear some space and put some stuff back in the coffers. You can't just take out of the coffers. Sometimes you got to put something back in the coffers. So that'll be my project for this upcoming week. So I'll build a bit of that. And also a quick mention, kind of since I referenced the cookie thing at the beginning of the episode. That's because I had my Thanksgiving, so it's Canadian Thanksgiving, as we're recording this. So I had the Canadian Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and I was promised pie, and the pie was a lie. There was no pie.
Oh,
The pie was a lie. That's why I had to have my cookie before we started recording. The pie was a lie, so I'm gonna have my cookie. God damn it, Bubbles! It's like
Carlos Senior did it.
It's not good when the pie is a lie. It ain't cool, man. That's not cool.
Nope.
Not cool.
Nope. That is not.
I was
cool.
real thankful right up until that point, Bubbles. My thankfulness declined precipitously after that. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. Just want to let you all know. All right. So real quick, before we touch on some of the topics, is there anything else other than pie and anything else that's on your minds?
On Canadian Thanksgiving Day, I would like to be thankful to still be on this podcast and hanging out with you guys and recording this. We've actually officially made it further than I was able to make it on the other podcast that I was on.
I want to talk about that.
Guys.
That'll be part of our continuing. So do you guys want to segue into that? Because the only feelings that he can possibly hurt are Eric's, and Eric only has one feeling.
All I'm going to say is that because I have promised to be 5% more mature and 5% less angry, I'll keep many of my feelings and comments to myself as he discusses what has been going on. But if a conversation arises on Friday, well, let the fires of hell burn you.
I look forward to this so much. It's a wonderful thing. But let's lay the groundwork. So I promise that this series of conversations now, we'll start with this one. It'll bleed into the Geoff thing. So I want to start with this. We'll lead it into the Geoff thing with his new card shop that he announced. So I'll explain more about that in a moment. And for this episode, I think I'll put some timestamps if you guys want to follow along a little bit. So that way you have your option. You can pick your adventure a little bit. So I'll include that in the description for you. And also include a link to the Geoff Wilson Sports Card Investor announcement about the new card shop that I just referenced, and we'll get into that. So let's start off with this. We had talked already in a previous episode about a Reseller's Locker Room podcast that Bobbles was on. So we were trying to help him promote it a little bit as well, as part of that. Now, real quick, since this will all play into this whole sponsorship and a lot of these things, I do want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this podcast, AMG Collectibles. So for the video version of it, it is scrolling across the screen. AMG Collectibles, whose feelings are not hurt by what we say, do appreciate their support in helping. Trust me, I've spoken to Sherry. I think we're on good terms. You mind your P's and Q's, Eric, and we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
I've been trying.
I'm just saying, right now, we're on good terms, and I'd like to keep it that way. So Bobbles, restrain yourself a little bit. Don't hurt feelings yet.
Oh, I like Sherry and Brad, so...
Yeah, yes. So they're good people. And in addition to that...
Sherry is a good person.
And AMGcollectibles.com, you can check out a lot of what they've got going on in inventory, their eBay store, and then also breaks are going to be opening up pretty soon. And then also the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel is now underway. We've been able to record the first episode. I was able to show the guys some examples of some stuff they got pulled of some new product that we'll be sharing we'll be recording it on Tuesday, and it'll be end of day Tuesday, Wednesday, that it'll appear on the YouTube channel. So we'll be recording another episode with the team at AMG Collectibles. So I want to thank AMG Collectibles for supporting this channel and this podcast. Now, bring it back, talking about the Resellers Podcast. And believe it or not, all of this stuff that I'm talking about here, it actually all comes together thematically here. So you guys were doing that podcast. You had started it brand new, and it was you were starting to lay the groundwork about it. And if you learn anything about podcasts, I can call this episode 42 because it is. Because I've done previous episodes of a audio podcast on YouTube where you guys weren't as part of it. It was myself doing it. But the point is, it was still a podcast. I was still doing it on a semi-regular basis. And now we're doing it in a more panel format, and I've appreciated that change to do it a little different way. But the point is, consistency is key with a podcast. A podcast, when they first get started, you're trying to figure out your audience, you're trying to build it. There's a lot of work that needs to be done before it becomes like a big thing. And you guys had gotten off to a good start, in all honesty. The first episode, I think, did well, and a couple of those episodes done well. But as we head into episode 5 of that, Bubbles and Ball Cards, or Brando, will not be a part of this podcast. Say as much or as little as you like, but from your perspective, what kind of went down with that?
So just to keep it short, but also give an explanation to it. First and foremost, I don't know. I don't have an answer. But we record this on Monday nights, obviously, and then I was recording with those guys on Tuesday nights. And the past week, the gentleman Ben had to record with another podcast because they had him on as a special guest for their 25th episode. So we adjusted our timing a little bit later, which was all fine. But I had to get up super early Wednesday morning because I was heading to travel down to Lynchburg. Me and my wife were going down to hit some sales and stuff. The 100-mile sale was going on. We wanted to go for a couple days. So we recorded and everything, and it was getting later, and they were wanting to discuss, some things with the audio side and this and that. And, things come into play with finances and, paying for the apps and this kind of stuff. And it was just kind of this, well, you do this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, if we're going to do this and y'all are talking about wanting to monetize and everything else, the smart thing is to keep it in one space and then disperse. That way, for tax reasons, it's easier to manage the financial side of it. But anyway, it was getting late. I had to leave. So I got off, I don't know, sometime just before midnight, if I remember. And Wednesday, didn't hear nothing from nobody. Thursday, didn't hear nothing from nobody. So I called Ben Thursday evening, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? I haven't heard anything from any of you guys. Who did I piss off? Because it was kind of obvious. And he tells me that they stuck around after I left Tuesday, and that the other two guys one of them said that he felt I didn't like him, and they were basically saying, they also said people were saying stuff about me that were about the show, and specifically me, which nothing was ever actually said to me of what was said or who said it. And then, he said that he had recommended we all sit down and have a discussion, and the other two didn't want to do that. So to be clear, I have no idea what happened, who got their feelings hurt or upset or whatever. It is all good. Again, I have no ill will towards them, but as grown men, it seemed a bit petty to me. And like I said, as a gesture, I'm happy to still be here. Because I'm really not an asshole. I may come across like it sometimes, but I'm really not. Herder of feelings, yes.
I said 5%. I said 5% more mature. This goes above and beyond. Like on a percentage basis, if I pull it back 5%, this still falls well within range of 5%. Those of you on the video side of it, I got the visual gag on that one.
If I had to guess what happened, they were highly passionate, which is good. It's nothing wrong with it, but they didn't want to manage expectations. And, only 4 episodes in, the talks of monetization and hitting 1,000 subs. And I've laid out plenty of examples of podcasts that have highly successful individual channels and popular people that haven't hit 1,000 subscribers. It's not easy to do. It's a different audience. And
I want to sandwich this. I want to stick to your specific case for this one, because I'm going to sandwich exactly what you're talking about into the latter portion. We'll put the Geoff Wilson piece in the middle. I want to start off with your story, specifically what we were talking about there, but then we'll follow up on exactly what you're talking about, the difficulties, what some of the complications are, and where expectations can get out of whack, because not a lot of people understand the realities of it. So the last portion of the conversation is going to be the realities and some of the things that we've experienced and seen. We'll share that at the end. But is there anything from your specific scenario you want to touch on? Add on?
No. I'll tie that in towards it in the end, because I do think that might have been some of it. Is I was trying to speak in reality, and maybe that's where they were kind of getting upset or thought that I was being negative. I don't know. But anyway, no, I won't no longer be on there. It's fine. Gives me time to do other things. So, but no ill will. Hopefully they continue on, but we shall see.
Perfect. And and like I said, we the only reason I gave Bobbles a pause there is because we're going to come back to that. I do want to continue on and expand on exactly what he was talking about. We'll come back to it. And now the rest of you know that he's Bobbles and Ball Cards, hurt her feelings. So that it's just that'll be his moniker for the rest of the episode. And occasionally I will yell out Brando just so you don't feel uncomfortable, just so that you don't lose that. I don't want you to lose it entirely. We'll occasionally refer to you as Brando just so that you feel better. Is that good compromise?
That works. That works.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So Eric, you may remove the ceremonial tape, and let's have a quick conversation about Geoff Wilson, sports card investor, and his big announcement. As promised, I will include a link to this in the description so those of you who can check out the video. Sports card investor, they tend to do a really good job with production. They usually do an excellent job in terms of showing whatever they're trying to show in a very excellent visual way. So that's to their credit, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But his big announcement was that he was going to start up a new card shop in Atlanta near the Braves Stadium. So that's going to be happening early 2024 is the projected timeline is for what they're doing. The guys didn't get to see the video, but I'll give you guys a quick high level. And again, I recommend checking out the video if you want to be super specific, but I'll give you like a high level from my recollection of watching it earlier today, is that Geoff Wilson comes off, of course, with a very grandiose. He knows how to present something in a very grandiose way. But basically what he was pitching and presenting is that they're going to try to do a 14,000 square foot, setup in his card shop. And they touched on a lot of different elements they're trying to do. They're going to have these areas of showcases, and they're going to have them showing in such a way very similar to a card shop they saw in Japan. So they're really, what you're getting out of it is they're taking elements of a bunch of other card shops they visited and seen things from and trying to borrow the best elements, which, by the way, if you're going to do that in 2023 going into 2024, first of all, I wouldn't recommend starting a card shop now. To be 100% blunt, I wouldn't start.
Didn't we have that conversation?
Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't start a brick and mortar. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care. However, I do think there's some mitigating circumstances which maybe, and I said maybe, might explain some of the thought process behind doing this. But if you're gonna do it, then yeah, borrow some of the greatest hits of some of the other card shops and models that you see already that have worked for some of these other shops. Of course, borrow some of the ideas that at least you think are good ideas that have worked and start with that and then go from there. So obviously they're going to lean heavily on that element of it, moving a lot of inventory because they're going to have to. They're going to have to buy a lot of cards and move a lot of cards through. They talk about the online element of it, which I think is smart because that's going to be your best way of moving inventory. That's very Burbank-esque because one of the things Burbank is really good at is they've got a warehouse and they've got millions and millions and millions of cards, which you can buy online directly through their eBay store, and they can bundle these cards up for you, and you can go inside the shop and buy singles and sell singles and trade singles. And the constant movement of cards is a big part of their business. That's a big part of it. The second part of it, which they made a lot of emphasis on, is breaking. So one of the things that they talked about was having all these different like pods and booths for breaking. And one of the first thoughts, we had a quick conversation about this before we hit record, was that with the sheer number of pods they have, it wouldn't surprise me if they were able to break multiple breaks at the same time on different platforms. So that would be maybe a way of kind of hedging their bets. If it's Fanatics Live, eBay Live, whatnot, YouTube, whatever's available for them at the time, it wouldn't shock me if they decided to go live on 3 or 4 of them at the same time, just to make sure wherever you are, there is a sports card investor, Card HQ break. The Card HQ is the name they're going to use for it. There could be a Card HQ break on all these platforms, and they could have breakers working each one of them simultaneously, so that no matter what, you can't escape them. If you're in a breaking platform, that one of their breaks will be active, likely. That leads me to the second thought, though. The second thought is, then if you're going to go through all that trouble and lean so heavily on breaks, whether it's a verbal agreement or a contract that's already been signed or something, it wouldn't shock me if Fanatics had already assured them a certain amount of product. That would be just a pure guess on my part. But if you're going to go lean so heavily into something that's so dependent on it, wouldn't you want to have some kind of assurance of some kind that you're going to get? Because if you're running that many breaks, you're going to need a lot of product, Bobbles, a lot of product, a constant flow, and you can't be paying secondary market prices. You got to have direct access, and it's got to be at a price point that lets you be competitive to move a lot of that product out the door. So far, let me pause for a second. So far, any thoughts on that initial couple of things that I point out based on that video?
Eric, you go first because you actually work in a shop, sort of.
Meaning that I don't actually work when I'm there, or I rarely go and work.
He didn't
Either
say.
way.
He just strongly implied it, Eric.
Okay. Um, I'm excited about this. I think he has the three things that you need to be successful today. I don't think just anybody can open up a shop somewhere and do brick and mortar right now. I think a lot of people tried during the boom, probably did okay for a very short period of time, and then realized that this isn't as easy as they thought it was going to be. But I think Geoff is going to have the three things that I think is most important today. And when you start any new business, they've always said location, location, location. If he is going to be near the Atlanta Braves ballpark, that's every single home game. Thousands of people are going to be walking by his shop that are in the mood to buy baseball paraphernalia, whether that be cards, jerseys, sports memorabilia, autograph, bats, balls, whatever. So just the location alone can be a win or lose for a business. And you're not going to get a better location than that. The other thing that he has already, and kind of goes into our conversation tonight, is a following. He has a massive following. Like him, hate him, whatever your feelings are about Geoff Wilson, he is well known and has a massive following. People are going to go there to check it out, either go there to see if it sucks or go there to see if it's awesome, go there to support him, or go there and point their fingers and laugh. It's like kind of Howard Stern years ago, where Howard Stern made most of his money off people who hated him. So his following is enormous, and that's going to bring people in, and it's going to help get supporters and bring in more money through advertising and all sorts of other collaborations he's going to come up with. And finally, the third, and I think these are all equally important, but a very important part is financial stability. A lot of people will put their life savings on the line, take out huge loans to start a business. And a lot of small businesses don't even last the first year. He is already financially stable. So he's not going in there panicking after the first month that he didn't make $1 million. He can play the long game and not worry. He's financially stable. He has a lot of successful businesses. And I think with the partners he's probably going to bring in with him, they too are going to not panic in the short term, and they're going to play the long game. So I think he has the three most important things. I think it's going to be successful. I would be shocked if in a year from now we're talking that it closed.
I'm going to preface ahead of time. I read. I was in the video itself. I was in the comment section, and yes, people did make the loan jokes. We knew they'd be there, but I just want to make sure we got out ahead of it to acknowledge that the loan jokes are there.
Yeah.
So, Bubbles, any initial high level thoughts? I want to get into the last piece that he talked about how that can be leveraged and how it can be used. I talked about the breaking. My theory, again, no inside information. My theory is that if he's going ahead with it, which he obviously is. He's already got 34,000 views on that video, so it's obviously performing very strong right out of the gate. People are seeing it. He's got eyeballs on this project. But the other piece of the puzzle is that My theory was that he, whether it's written or very strong, a very strongly worded acknowledgement, he's going to have access to that product. Because otherwise, that's one major thing if you're relying so heavily on breaking. So my expectation is they've got some kind of assurance baked in to even breaking ground on this. But what Eric talked about as far as leveraging his current existing brand and leveraging his current existing attention that he gets, I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. And I mentioned to you guys one of the things I'm thinking about, which I'll talk about here in a second and go on for the next piece. But any initial thoughts on this first part?
So Eric mentioned two things that is interesting to me that I'm curious about. One is the location. Sounds in theory to be a great location, but 14,000 square feet in prime real estate of Atlanta across from the ballpark is probably not cheap at all. And that has me questioning how much revenue is going to be needed to actually make it any kind of profitable, because I don't know what the space actually would cost, but you would expect it to be pretty expensive being across from the ballpark in that size space.
Yeah.
The
And I have a
other
theory
thing
about that
was
plays into that next point. So that's but continue that thought.
the other part is when you're also correct with people, going out to a ball game, they got sports on the mind, might want to pop in, they pop into a team store, whatever. Are they going to want to spend that money before they get into the ballpark? And is he going to have the hours to attract the audience of those members going to the ballpark? Because many baseball games are 7 p.m., 7:30 maybe, and most traditional card shops are normally closing their doors around 6 o'clock. So is he going to have extended times on that, or how is he going to play that aspect of it? So that's just two elements from like you mentioned. I think it could work, and when you first think about it, it sounds, interesting and neat. But yeah, like you mentioned with the product, he's got to have a lot of product and then there's cost involved with that as well, So has he got a contract, a deal? Because from what I have heard from my LCS, the margins on product, even direct, aren't that great anymore. So it'll be interesting, what's the plan to create the profits, I guess.
Now, one thing obviously with breaks, you can manipulate the pricing on that by having different slots that are available at different price points. The margin, in theory, if you're doing your math well, the margin should be higher on that, obviously. And if you can move enough product through breaks, that allows you to sell it. Selling a box will get you a certain margin, but taking the same box and breaking it up in such a way where people are buying into teams at certain price points and stuff like that, you can make that margin work for you, because some people are going to get skunked. Now you can still give them cards and things. There are ways to make them feel a little better about it. But the fact is, there are going to be plenty of people who are going to pay more money than the cards they're going to get are worth, or than the packs that those cards came out of are worth. And that's the majority of the people that are going to buy into these breaks.
But you also have to remember, with breaking, you also have more expenses involved, because you have all the shipping costs and the sorters and more employees involved in it and everything than someone just coming in and buying a box and ripping it themselves and throwing 89 of 100 cards in the garbage can. So
for sure. Now that's going to play into two things that continue from that point, from that idea. The first one is the hours that you were talking about. My expectation, again, no inside info, I have no idea what the hell he's planning on doing. However, based on the way they presented the idea, the layout of it, they laid it out in such a way that there are going to be various lounge areas inside of this card shop that are basically perfectly designed to sit there and watch the game. So if you're going to do that, you're likely going to extend the hours accordingly.
Right.
Well, again, I don't know what the business plan is, but Eric, would it not stand to reason? Again, we're speculating based on common sense and reason. Would it not stand to reason, if you're going to set it up in a way to encourage people to hang out and watch the game, so to speak, while the game is going on just down the street, maybe you're going to have snacks, maybe you're going to have drinks, and there's probably a markup on that. You can buy that stuff at Costco in bulk, and You can charge somebody $2 for water that you paid 50 cents for. Not a big deal when it's one bottle, but when you're selling cases of it, you know, Gatorade, Coke, whatever. Again, just throwing this out there, like you're making 50 cents a buck or two at a time, and then a dozen people are sitting there watching the game, and you're basically charging them. I don't think they're going to be licensed, but I'm just saying, like, within reason, there's ways you can make margin on all these things that we're just talking about.
And if, you know, and if I don't know how difficult it is in Atlanta to get a liquor license, if you could turn that into some type of, you know, get a liquor license somehow, and now you got now you can serve beers and things, you know, just in bottles. You don't have to have it on draft. You don't have to have a big setup.
Just you don't want to have trade night kegger, Eric. Trade night kegger. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get a liquor license, now you're even making more money.
Yeah, but just on the surface, just high level, even if you're not able to get to that degree, just the fact that you make it a hangout and you can sell snacks and drinks and like that, those are high margin items because you can buy them relatively cheap. And, you know, people are sitting around, they're going to get thirsty. And if you're not charging them an arm and a leg for a bottle of water or a Coke or something, they might be willing to pay you a couple of bucks to get one, and you make a little bit each time you sell those. Continuing further, so that's kind of the hours thing. The other piece of the puzzle, talking about what Bobbles was referring to about the costs of shipping and all that. Well, one way you can mitigate that is having an aggressive shipping department built into this operation for your online store. So if you do a good enough job with the online store, you're already going to have a shipping department. So if your processes are strong enough that you can separate things out properly, the same shipping department that is sending out your online orders can also ship out your breaking orders. So they just got to make sure they keep things sorted. You know, don't cross mix things. But as long as you've got an efficient operation there, your stuff then, boom, breaks, get everything sorted and put together, boom, get your stuff out the door. You ordered something on the online store, boom, get your stuff together, get it out the door. And that constant flow. The key to this kind of business is going to be to keep money constantly coming in and out. You buy collections, you put some margin on it, then you sell a bunch of that stuff. Sell to people who are walking in the front door. You got to also sell the online. Because if you're not selling enough online, you can't just rely on foot traffic. Kind of to your point, there might be these little spikes of foot traffic, but people may or may not be. They might go in to look. Doesn't mean they're going to buy. That's where all that other stuff has to come into play, and that's hopefully what you're trying to do. So that's the other thought I have about the cost of operations of the shipping. That's a way you can kind of mix the two things and make them work for you. And one of the things they pitched is the idea of doing a more interactive element to the ordering, where under the right circumstances, if you can virtually call in. I'm just trying to explain it in the way they tried to present it. The idea of being able to want certain inventory and being able to have somebody show it to you effectively in the shop. And yep, that's the one I want. I'll take that. Boom, you paid for it, and then they ship it to you. Which, if they can pull that off, that'd be kind of a cool feature. It's like having the in-person experience without having the in-person experience. You know, it'd be cool if you could literally just pick something off of one of the shelves and they literally show it to you and you go, "That's the one you want?" "Yep." "Okay, I'll put it in the box for you." And then somebody takes care of it for you, and then boom, there's your order. Get it out the door and get it to them. I don't know if they'll be able to pull that off, but if they can, that'd be kind of a cool feature that would stand them out a step different from a lot of other shops. So all those little experiences are going to have to play into it. You're going to have to separate yourself from the pack. It wouldn't surprise me if they sell merch. I would totally expect to see that. And then that brings us to the other piece. And this is what I was going to allude to as far as the real estate cost, kind of what you guys were alluding to as well there. It wouldn't shock me if he owned more parts of that building than what's going on in that shop. It wouldn't shock me if there's some office space incorporated into it that's not part of the shop proper, which would help defer your costs, because now you're talking about somebody who has multiple businesses. Well, if you're doing that, you can sublease space to yourself. So yeah, you're paying a lease, but you're kind of paying a lease to yourself, and then you're paying an overall cost. And you can kind of move around the costs of things and all over, because one of the pieces that was included in this presentation was that they're going to build a studio. So all of a sudden the content arm gets entered into this retail space that you got. So you got breaking, one pillar. You got content, another pillar. You got a retail space where you're selling product, a third pillar, all inside of one roof. Well, by doing that, you've effectively, your accountant can sit there and go like, all right, so you got the SCI media business, you got the SCI, card business, you got the SCI breaking business. Even though technically you think it's kind of the same, you can play games on how you separate these things out and how you move money between one segment, one division of your company and another, all under that SCI brand. That's where the branding thing all of a sudden comes back into play. It's all sports card investor. How did you arrange this company? How are these pieces falling into place? Are you leasing space to yourself? Because that could be a kind of a clever way of messing about with the cost of things and making it work for you. Because all of a sudden, you've taken this space that you're renting out, this 14,000 square feet, and there's a chunk of it that's a studio that people can come in and see the shows being done. You're also putting that on YouTube and you're getting your AdSense and your sponsor stuff for that. That's money coming in for that. At the same time, some people are sitting there watching that, and while they're doing that, they're buying some cards. And then there's the people working the online. And then there's the breakers happening at the same time on the other side of the room. And all these things are operating in tandem at the same time. And then some people are watching the game. So it's like you got all this stuff going. There's a lot of moving parts. It's a very complicated operation. I'm skeptical that you can pull off that many moving parts. It's ambitious. So maybe the word that I would use is it's supremely ambitious. It sounds like to me. But I could use my imagination. I could see angles where you could make this work for you. But man, that is a lot of moving pieces. And I hope you have, it's not just having somebody with one vision. You need a lot of lieutenants making sure that all of these formations are happening in line, because there's a lot of platoons that are going to have to be working independent of each other that are all working towards the whole.
I'm just curious, like, I guess the question I have is why now? Because he started his channel and everything right, I guess, right around the beginning of the boom, maybe just before things started taking off real good. And you had this whole period where, like, there could have been no question of profits. And now in a softer period where it's definitely more difficult to create revenue in sports cards, he's deciding to not only just open a shop, but what did you say, mega shop?
Well, I think 14,000 square feet, you kind of would have to
it.
consider it, right? You've created an experiential experience type shop. It's kind of what Fanatics has pitched for the longest time. That's why I say I feel like it's catering to what Fanatics wants a lot. So I feel like there's got to be a really good reason for that. And then again, he's kind of putting a lot of these SCI elements under one roof. He's creating like this SCI superstore, experience under one roof, effectively.
And if he does, I didn't even think about this. And Eric, you deal a lot with memorabilia and stuff, but to my knowledge, it's mostly gamer stuff. But if he has the Fanatics connection, allegedly, he could do the jerseys, hats, shirts.
Across the street from the stadium.
Yeah. So that could be part of it. And it also would be a big explanation. I mean, 14,000 square feet with a breaker room and a studio, it's still a large space.
Well, the thing is, Bobbles, not one breaker room. I don't remember the exact number, but I want to say it's like 5 or 6. It's actually
still a lot of space, though.
They're also building a breaker amphitheater, like a little mini breaker amphitheater, and then another section with like seating and bunch of TVs and like almost a sports bar setup. Like I do recommend checking out this video. If you look at these renders, and the concept is he's creating these independent spaces inside of this larger space where he is eating up that real estate with a lot of the stuff that's going on. And again, don't forget, he's building out a full-fledged studio. It's not going to be just one setup studio, because he's got the one like talking head program he does. He's got the other one he records. Are you going to have multiple studio setups? That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm curious how much room does this studio get? If it's a decent amount, that's eating into your 14,000.
And just a little bit on top of what Bobbles was saying, I think being across from that stadium, if you can get current and a little easier former players to come in and do autograph signings, you'll continue, you'll get foot traffic like crazy. I wish that the shop that I work at was right across from the Boston Garden, because like this weekend we have Jeremy Swayman coming in, who's the current goaltender of the Bruins. It's going to be a madhouse. But imagine if we were across the street from in Boston, in a major city, instead of 20 minutes away, in Boston, across from the Boston Garden, and we had Jeremy Swayman. We'd have to have the police blocking off the street. So if he's that close and he can get former Braves from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, to the current guys to do signings, the foot traffic is going to be insane. He's going to get people shop.
Yeah. And the other piece I would kind of wonder, and I kind of threw this at you guys before we started recording. Imagine if they start doing trade nights, which again borrow from other shops that have had success with these things. Card Collector 2 has had a lot of success with their trade nights, and obviously the trade nights at the National and stuff like that. That's part of their branding now, doing these trade nights. But you just imagine now you've got the space that theoretically is fairly large, and you could potentially run like a decent sized trade night. But you do that, and you incorporate, again, that's why I say the reason I'm emphasizing the studio and all these online elements, the breaking and the studio and all these online components, the reason I'm emphasizing them is if you're going to go that far, why wouldn't you take the extra step of going digital with your trade night too? Why wouldn't you do live from a trade night? Why wouldn't you you've already got the equipment. You've already demonstrated you have the production capabilities. And if you bring the production capabilities even closer to the point that you've literally got a studio built in there, why on earth couldn't you have Geoff or somebody hanging out in the studio talking about the trade night, and then you turn the camera around and there's all the people doing the trade night, and all of a sudden you created almost like, do you remember like TRL, Total Request Live? Yeah. Imagine you like look across the glass and you see a bunch of people, you turn the camera to them, they're like, whoa, because it's on YouTube. But you incorporate that in. Again, maybe I should charge Geoff for this, but just imagine in your mind you do it that way to generate interest and excitement from people that are far away. They're nowhere nearby, but now they're paying attention to this. Maybe they watch it for a little bit and then tune off. But if stuff's going on, you could do giveaways. You could do whatever. So all of a sudden, the people on the interactive online, you're causing them to pay attention to what you're doing. At the same time, the people are in store paying attention to what you're doing. You can be showing the damn live stream in a feed in the store. You can just turn on YouTube and be showing your own feed, and people can see themselves on YouTube and like, hey, Mom.
And you could use market movers, because he's going to be selling that.
Of course, yes.
To bring up the comps and do a trade evaluation when a trade is live happening, and then allow the audience to grade the trade.
Bobbles, all I'm saying is synergies. I'm seeing a lot of synergies here. You guys, it's like, Eric, are you sensing what I'm getting at? You're picking up what I'm putting down here? I'm seeing synergies. There's a lot of goddamn synergy. That's what I'm thinking. Under that brand, that SCI brand, all of a sudden you walk in and it's SCI world. Because everything is SCI branded in some way or another. Everywhere you look, there's some kind of a branding thing. That's why I'm wondering if it goes beyond. That's why I say, yes, it's a card store. The elements that normally operate a card store do apply, but they kind of don't, because now you're creating all this other stuff that kind of creates these possibilities. Doesn't mean it's going to work. Just to be clear, like, you're still taking a risk either way. However you want to slice it, it could be a spectacular failure, not just this is a little one, because you're putting so many eggs in this basket. But you do have kind of multiple baskets too. You are kind of finding if you got enough baskets, maybe you figure out which one of them works, and then you lean into that a little harder. If the breaking works well enough, then you lean into it a little harder, or you focus on the media side a little harder, and that kind of one can offset the other when one's struggling a little bit, and they can kind of keep each other buoyant, if that makes sense.
I do find it very interesting that the location Geoff chose, and maybe there wasn't much choice to it, but I find it interesting he chose the baseball stadium, because that's the sport that he's like least a part of, I guess you could best describe it. Like he mostly, you see him dabbling in the football cards and the baseball or basketball cards. But then when people would talk to him about baseball cards or whatever, that was kind of like his weakness, his weak point. So it's kind of interesting he chose the baseball stadium instead of like, the Falcon Stadium or the Hawks Stadium or whatever. So that one kind of interested me.
My recommendation is don't let Geoff be a buyer. he can be there. He can be there like to greet and to like wave at people and yell hello at them. I would not let him be a buyer. Get people for that. Get people whose only job is to do that.
I mean, I can answer the question. I mean, I think it's really kind of simple. is that look at how many home games you're going to get. You get
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
you
Yep.
get more home games in baseball than any other sport.
Yeah.
So going to
that's
you
definitely
want that-
true.
You want that foot traffic. You want to go to the sport that's going to have the most people walking by your store. You're not going to be football because what's that? 7 gets 7 games a year.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe the playoffs.
It's the
And-
Falcons.
Yeah,
But it's also fairness. But it's also what kind of real estate can you? That's why I pitched the possibility there's a real estate angle to this, where maybe he's got access to more. There's the store with the 14,000 square feet, but if he has access to additional units, again, I don't see I can't see the building, but if he's got access to additional units in the space to do others, there's a way that you could be like, well, I operate multiple businesses. What if I'm leasing this office up here, this office over here, or something to the left or the right, and then you're dealing with the same landlord as like, hey, can you cut me a bit of a deal? I'm leasing this space from you, this space from you, this space from you. Can we work something out? And you kind of offset the cost over a couple of businesses and over multiple leases. That might be an angle that allows you, okay, so I was able to get the prime location by cutting a deal through volume. There are little ways to do that, and it defers it, and then your accountant can split things up. So it's one of those things where there might be ways of making that work for you.
The home game thing, though, that was a good point, Eric. I didn't think about that. I was thinking more of Jeff's, like his niche
Expertise.
and what he's more experienced
I
in.
thought,
It kind of was funny to me. He picked baseball, but that's very true with the home games.
I want to be in a space where the most wallets walk by my shop, and that would be the one.
Yeah,
And on a consistent basis. And and like I said, if you create enough additional traffic other times, that means you're getting a consistent flow of traffic. You've got the obvious times, but then if you can again, that's why I say trade nights, events, maybe autograph signings, something to keep a steady flow of clientele coming by. And that's why I say if you're going to play this game, we'll find out. It'll be an interesting experiment. It'll be one of the first mega stores opened up under the Fanatics era. So, because to my knowledge, it's one of the first ones. But what it really comes down to is it's going to be a test if in 2023/2024 and beyond, you can create that kind of a setup and make it financially viable. Even having all these additional ways that you can make this work. I talked about a real estate angle. I talked about the media angle, the additional pillars, the breaking, all this other stuff that you're trying to work into it to make it work. And if you do go with this heavy online presence, again, if you can do that kind of concierge type service where somebody can literally grab the card right out of the showcase, show it to you, you say, yeah, you pay for it, boom, we're going to throw it in a box for you and send it off your way. That could be a cool experience for the right buyer. And it's the most interactive that anybody's going to get. It's about the most direct without physically being there. It's the next best thing.
And when he made the post that said like huge news coming soon or whatever, if you noticed, it was like a kind of an SCI themed box with packs. So I kind of threw out as a joke, but it could be a very true thing because Dave and Adams kind of has their thing. But we may see Geoff Wilson SCI repacks. Like
See,
you have
secretly you're trying to be a herder of feelings right now. I think there's some feelings you're trying to hurt.
I mean, David Adams they have
Eric,
hip raids, so you never know. And he did have it on the post, a little pack, and the box there had Jeff's face on it and everything. And yeah, it could be a Fanatics branded SCI repack.
Ooh, get excitement. So to kind of bring this all around, so bottom line, it is an experiment. We are curious what it's going to be. We threw out a lot of stuff. And again, it's all honestly just based on the theory. Obviously, they haven't built it yet. But just based on the renders and based on the general concept and premise that was presented in this video. I'll include a link to it in the description. Check it out for yourself. Maybe you get a completely different interpretation. You see something completely different that we missed or didn't see. I would recommend checking it out anyway, just to see if you're curious. Check it out and see for yourself and see what you think. But when I saw it in my viewing, these are the things that came into my mind. Just trying to use my imagination a little bit and trying to be like, well, how would I try to make this profitable? Well, you're going to have to try a little bit of everything. But my other thought, which I talked about a couple minutes ago with you guys, I'm just trying to think of the army you're going to have to build to make this work. It's not even just having the idea. Is that you can have this amazing vision, but you're going to need enough foot soldiers on the ground to make this happen for you, because you're going to need help. No one or two people are going to be able to make this happen, no matter how clever they are. You're going to need a lot of people that are going to row in the same direction as you, because there's a lot of moving parts happening. I can imagine it being chaos, a complete madhouse, trying to run that kind of an operation. So, any other thoughts before we angle it from this one?
Yeah, you're definitely going to need a lot of people, a lot of responsible people, people that you can trust. It takes a lot to run a large shop like this. We have a huge staff. We have, all these different people that are in charge of specific things. And we're not even close to having 14,000 feet and TVs everywhere and couches and and all the in the foot traffic that they're going to get. So you have to have a professional staff to run this and to be successful. It's going to have to be treated like a real business and not just a mom and pop card shop. Small little one room card shop, on the corner of somewhere. This is it's going to have to be a professional business, and it's going to take a lot of work.
Nice.
Which adds expense.
Oh yes.
Yeah. It most definitely.
Like I said, it's a very high risk gamble, Bubbles. However you want to present it, it's a super. Look, I'm entertained from the praise the content gods. From the praise the content gods perspective, look, no matter what happens, this is going to be interesting. If it succeeds, it's going to be interesting. If it fails miserably, it's going to be interesting. The process, the steps along the way, there's potential for this to be interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out.
If it succeeds, and here, this is all. There's no credibility to this statement. This is all just maybe a possibility. But maybe Fanatics is not just helping him with the product line of it, but maybe helping him even tossing some cash his way, maybe, because
it could be
if this succeeds, it could lay the groundwork for more of these to happen.
Yeah,
and they go ahead.
No, all I was going to say, there's nothing that anybody said in any of the videos or anything that say that Geoff is the sole 100% owner and proprietor. You alluded to partners. There's always a way that Fanatics could get in as kind of a partner and have a slice of the pie, thereby granting the access that I alluded to. That would give them all the incentive in the world to make sure that this shop is supplied. If nothing else.
They've said that they wanted to do, shops and stuff like that. And if this is truly like a mega shop and it's successful, it could lay the groundwork for more of them to be a happening thing throughout the country, which could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it could also play into.
Imagine if the shop was called, Sports Card Investor, Sports Cards and Memorabilia Shop, powered by Fanatics.
Right.
Yeah.
How is that going to fail?
Well, we'll have to see. But it gives it a stronger possibility. It means they've at least got some things in their favor that could help try to run that kind of a large. It's an edge that the majority of the shops will not have. Right there in and of itself, it's an edge that they'd have.
If I'm Fanatics, and if I am looking to continue to branch out into this world, which it seems that's all they're trying to do. It's been crazy, the stuff they've been doing in the last year. Again, love him or hate him, the guy Geoff Wilson came out of nowhere during the boom and went to number one. He is the most well-known. He's the most talked about. He has traveled through two countries, posting videos and spending large amounts of money. He started his own business with the card investor thing, and this guy came out of nowhere, and in three short years, he's number one. Love him or hate him, he's number one.
Why? So you're saying he's number one, but which finger it is depends on the person.
It depends on the person. You nailed it.
I think it's fair.
And I would continue to go with that if it was Friday, but it's Monday, so we're going to move on. And if Fanatics wants to get involved with someone, this is the guy. There's nobody else. Now, we have other known people that could be deemed successful in this hobby. He's number one. Why would Fanatics go with number 3?
No, sure,
You
but
gonna
I think one thing I'll throw out real quick, just to kind of put a cap on this as well, because I want to lean into the influence thing since we talked about that. I think it wouldn't surprise me, kind of alluding to something that Bobbles mentioned before we got started as well, is that if there is some success here and it becomes like a franchising thing, building off of all these pillars that we talked about, it would not shock me in any way, shape, or form. Kind of playing off what Bobbles was saying, if there wasn't card show promotion becoming a pillar, if it didn't become another element of it. And we already know Fanatics wants involvement in some of that. Now, talking about somebody else who's successful in the space, somebody else that maybe Fanatics could get into some business in, Burbank over in the West Coast has had a lot of success with their shop and a lot of success with that show that's going by leaps and bounds. It's become a very large show and powerful show. That could be another inroad where Fanatics could be like, yeah, oh, you know what? You may not want to sell us equity in the shop, but how about we work together and we will help promote and build up your show. And that gives us an inroads into card show promotion. And then over on the other side of it, hey, Geoff, can we work on something with the card shop? And now that we've got this successful model build, let's do an Atlanta card show of the level and tier. And all of a sudden, Fanatics also gets into the card show promotion business with a couple of different places that they can run big shows at. You got something on the West Coast, you got something in Atlanta, and then maybe something you move up further up the East Coast. And there's all these things you can do all over the country. A couple of mega shows.
Imagine if they got their, sunk their teeth into Burbank, Dallas, and Atlanta. I mean, you're going right across the country. And again, I'll sell this to them if they're interested. Powered by Fanatics. It's you have everyone's attention now.
Yeah.
People want to go to those 3 shows because of those words at the end of whatever the hell show it is. Powered by Fanatics. I'm in.
Maybe that was the problem, Bubbles. Maybe we worked it backwards. The problem is I joked about trying to get the Fanatics overlords. Maybe the problem is I need the Fanatics overlords to buy in first, and then people will care. It's like that's how we do it. We don't need to get the viewers, Eric. We need the powered by Fanatics, and then the viewers will come.
Our numbers would go through the roof if
Amazing.
we had powered. Listen, I know how to spell it. We could just type it out and just.
Yeah, I was gonna say we had it all backwards. The problem is we had it all backwards. Like
we'll
just add a K to it. Nobody would notice.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's
we
like,
got 5
the problem is
watching. So
we tried to build a platform like fools, Bubbles, like fools.
Break it into 3 words: fan of ticks, and it would look like Fanatics.
Yeah, there you go.
So on this, that concludes this segment of the Sports Card Marketing Podcast. Moving on. So I want to kind of go off of it. So there you go. So I had the one question about if there were going to be some thoughts about about Geoff Wilson, the Mega Card Shop. I'll come up with some clever name and I'll include it in the title. So it's just going to be Geoff Wilson's Mega-Shop, whatever it is, whatever we're going to call it. But that'll be part of the title, I'm sure. But there you go. There's a segment. We discussed it at quite some length and covered a lot of different angles on it. So we'll see. Everything we said could be completely wrong. This happened before. It'll probably happen again. So
according to my wife, everything I say is completely wrong.
Fair. But at the very least, we threw some stuff out there. Like everything we talked about is at least plausible, given what they could do if they chose and elected to with what they put out there. Based on what they suggested in their build-up, you could do some or all of these things. I don't know if they will, but it wouldn't shock me if at least some of those ideas came to fruition.
Be sure to put powered by Fanatics in the title, though. See if it increases the views.
see if it increases the views? Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm going to run out of goddamn characters when I'm going to run out of it. Like, I've already got you being hurt or feelings. I got the Mega-Shop. Like, let's see how this goes.
If you put powered by Fanatics in quotes, we can't get in trouble.
That's true.
Or put a question mark.
Allegedly. Powered by Fanatics allegedly.
Yeah.
It's alleged. All right. So speaking of building a platform, let's segue back into what we started. So this will be our sandwich. We started off with laying the groundwork a little bit about Bobbles hurting feelings. Then we talked about Geoff Wilson, who hurts a lot of people's feelings, to the point they make rap songs about it. He hurts a lot of people's feelings. Now back to the hurter of feelings, but also leading into a bigger conversation about. So Geoff Wilson is the extreme example. He's the outlier. We talked about all this stuff only because he managed to build a platform, and I have it beside me, of 281,000 subscribers, which in YouTube parlance, so I want to make this clear, he is one of, if not the biggest, in the sports card niche. But compared to PewDiePie, he's a peasant. Like he's a gnat. He's a tiny little, insignificant speck of dust comparatively
Watched
to the
his
true
3
titans.
newest episodes tonight.
There you go. But comparatively to the real giants of YouTube, minuscule, small, tiny. But in this space, the 800-pound gorilla. So it's all relative, right? It's all relative to where you're at. So the thing is, this niche isn't huge. And it's actually a conversation, I won't share too many details about it, but a conversation I had with the guys about, Canadian sports card YouTube and how small that is. So we take that and niche it down even further. Like, it's actually shocking. It's shocking how small the space really is if you break it down further at all. But you take somebody with...
Because the extension cord doesn't go across the lake into the fishing hut for the ice fishing.
That's the problem.
If you got longer extension cords, people could do their podcasts out from the ice fishing hut.
The thing is, Eric, so what you're saying is we literally need to be powered by Fanatics. I need Fanatics to plug in and then send me the power across. And then I'm good to go. Literally powered by Fanatics. I'm glad you're thinking. You're thinking.
Yep,
I appreciate it. You're not just here for the guitar licks. I appreciate it. But you take somebody with that size of a following in this niche space, as big as he is in this niche space, and he's trying to build his mega shop and doing all that. But at least he's got this to fall back on. He's got the media empire of this size in this space to go off. Well, what if you're a lot smaller than that? I think there's a misconception. And it kind of plays into a little bit of what happened with Bobbles and the podcast. That's why I wanted to pause him on what he was talking about, because part of it was a disconnect between expectation and reality in terms of what you can and can't do. We a lot of us have champagne dreams, but sometimes it doesn't quite, it doesn't work that way. Geoff can pull off certain things because he's able to, at that size, get certain sponsorships, certain opportunities, certain access that others are not able to. Now, some others have been able to network very effectively, and you'll see them. They'll have sponsorships. So, we made the joke about it, and we've got AMG Collectibles supporting what we're doing here. But a lot of that came as a result of relationships that I already had with AMG Collectibles and the folks in it. That's not going to be normal. And realistically, when a lot of people look at this stuff, they're like, oh, you must make a lot on AdSense. And this is where, Bobbles, I think we can share a little insight here. A lot of these channels at this scale, you're not going to, if you go to work, I always made the joke about it. I go, in a month, I'd make more money on the first day of the month by lunchtime than is on YouTube. And that's not an exaggeration. That's super accurate. Before lunchtime, before I even go and open my lunch and start eating, I've already made more money at working a regular job, than I would on YouTube in a month. And that is, chugging along, doing my thing, making, last year I made over 200 videos. But I'm certainly not the biggest in the space. But even if you scale me up 10x, it's not like crazy. You're not losing your mind on all that AdSense money. That's sweet AdSense money.
Yeah, people get confused, and with the topic earlier of the other podcast, it was kind of, so I have a monetized channel. Obviously, you have a monetized channel, and we've dabbled. I don't do much videos on the Bobbles channel anymore, but when I was, even when it was ticking along and getting, a decent amount of views, or if I had a video that popped off and got a good amount of views, there is this misconception from the outside space of folks that are just starting or thinking that people who are successful on YouTube are making tons and tons of money. What they don't associate it or understand is most of that money, majority of all of that money, has nothing to do with the actual AdSense. It's more that's the platform that's opening doors for them to make money other ways. Geoff has, you said, over 200,000 subscribers. I off the top of my head, I'm going to guess he gets what 30,000 views, maybe a video. I don't know what he
A lot of
pulls
it depends per
in.
video. I can tell you that the card shop, it's less so than it was in the past, but the card shop video obviously is doing okay. It's that one is at 35,000 right now. A lot of his are somewhere in the tens into the 20,000s. Most of them. Some of them get into
Okay,
almost the 30s, but high 20s. A lot
so
of a lot of
200
cases.
plus thousand subscribers, and he's pulling 10 to 15,000.
Yeah.
Well, on that 10 to 15,000, I mean, and it varies for each, each channel, and it varies across what time of the year it is and how much Google's paying for that time of the year and what the people, the advertisers are bidding on and all this. But I would say that most people who are monetized are getting what 10 would you agree $10 to $20 per thousand views? It's not an
Um,
enormous amount.
a lot of it depends on the niche that you're going into. Uh, it used to be that they actually listed it for you. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, so you're talking about like the CPM and the RPM.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. Like, you basically it's an average of per thousand, and let's just say Jeff gets at 10,000 views and $25 even on a per thousand view. I mean, you think about that, you know, $250, right? Well, he would have to do that every single day of a month to start getting it to accumulate to a good bit of money. Most of the money is coming from the sponsors, the affiliates, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He's even came out and said it that his channel is a platform of advertising for market movers. Now
Yeah.
you do the math on what he makes per month for market movers and how many subscriptions there are. That's making him some good money.
Yeah.
So
What it is, what you're talking about is in reality, the YouTube channel is a loss leader. That's why
yeah,
if you remember when we did the card shop discussion, I talked about I made emphasis on the fact that he includes a studio space in that card shop. I don't think that's an accident. I think that's a way of kind of working that into what he's doing already otherwise, kind of streamlining the space, but also streamlining costs, putting things under different buckets in order to move things around. That's where a good accountant is worth their weight in gold. They'll be able to do a lot of things for you to make that maybe make sense. Sometimes you'll intentionally take a loss on something because it'll defer taxes. It'll do a lot of other things for you where in the end the numbers end up where you want them to be, but you're doing it in clever ways. I'll put it that way. So I wanted to grab and to give tangible numbers. I'll only give mine because that it's not fair to give anybody else's. But I can tell you in the last calendar year, the way my channel is structured right now, the revenue for 1,000 views. So 1,000 views across the channel. So this is the average over every video, everything, because each video can have independently, it can bump up and down. I've got $6.65. 1,000 views on this channel in the last calendar year is worth $6.65. So 1,000 views, the video is $6.65. 2,000 views, you double it, and so on and so forth. And
You owe me $3.
that
I will take your previous agreed pay and I'll double it.
Deal.
that actually
You owe me $25.
Damn.
that's less than I thought, because back when I was doing the videos, I think mine was somewhere in the 12 to 15 range. So maybe they've
changes
decreased,
based on
because that
time.
does change.
Yeah, it changes based on time. It changes upon year. It changes upon genre. And
Yeah,
live streams are less. So
right.
if you're doing a lot of live streams, that actually brings it down. So that's why I say I'm giving the average over everything, because then you'll do a video where it's way higher for that specific video because it really touched on certain topics, people caught on to it a certain way, and obviously that one will do a little bit better. And that's why there's a lot of confusion. And I'll bring it back into your example as well. There's a lot of confusion about when it's like, well, if I have these many subscribers or when I have these many views, it's like, well, it depends. It's not that simple. I wish it was. It'd be really cool if you could be like, oh yeah, get these many views and boom, you're done. In reality, the quality of the views and all this stuff that YouTube does in the background, it's calculating constantly. All the time it's figuring out these numbers and working out this math. And it's hard to try to figure it out in the long run. But what comes out of it is that you look at that and go like, well, does that even make sense? It's like, well, actually it does. That's what I'm saying. It's averaged out over a long period of time, over the full year, every video, every click, every view, everything. at the time that you were doing it, it might have made sense a certain way. But like I said, live streams will do less because people will watch part of it. When you're live, you may get ads, you may not get ads. And then you watch in a replay, you may get more ads. So that might mess around with it a little bit that way. So all of that becomes part and parcel of it. And one of the things that you mentioned was kind of a disconnect in the guys that you were dealing with there and their thoughts about what they thought was happening. Like they were seeing growth, they were seeing more views, they were seeing more subscribers, but they were already like jumping ahead from we're doing this for fun to we were looking at the monetization possibilities and we're doing all that. It's like, but you haven't even built the platform yet. You haven't established the baseline. Like I said, Eric talked about, you talked about why do this now? Well, with the prices dropping, prices are actually a little more stable depending on what you're buying. If you're not buying the most volatile stuff, it's actually a lot easier than when the boom was happening and prices were going up every 27 minutes and you were trying to figure out where to price things dynamically as the market kept changing constantly. And people were paying 10 times as much as what they should have paid for something that was $1 when that made no sense. Now when it's a little bit more stable, it's easier to buy and it's easier to sell. But at the same time, he's also had more time with his platform. He's had more time to build his platform, more time to make those relationships. And maybe now, speculating, allegedly, maybe now he finally has a relationship with Fanatics where they agreed to help him in whatever way we think that he's getting help, or at least an agreement to get product, where before he wouldn't have had that. And if you don't have that connection, you don't have the hookup, Eric, I'm not opening a brick and mortar. If I don't have that kind of assurance, some kind of a guarantee, whatever it is, or, they're buying into the business a little bit, which would be even better. If they're investing in me that way and providing me access to material, that's the best of all worlds. But maybe I didn't have that a year ago or a year and a half ago. And then at that point, it makes no sense for me to even venture into those waters because, yeah, I'd be set up to fail. I'd be doomed because I wouldn't have any of those things that I might need to give me a chance to be successful.
So I was curious because I haven't really done content on my channel much, but I wanted to see what my revenue was per 1,000. And oddly enough, somehow mine is higher than yours, even though I haven't been doing content. So
it's not. That's what I said. It depends on the video. And to be honest, doing more content actually punishes you. It actually does.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's a great example of not everybody gets paid the same. Some are going to get more than others. And it's all based on the 1,000 views. People look at, well, you got to have so many subscribers. No, the subscriber number you need is 1,000. You need the subscribers of 1,000, and you need the watch time to get the monetization. After that, it's all about views because you can have 1,000 subs, but if you're getting 10,000 views, that's what YouTube cares about. They want the eyes on the content. It's not about how many people have hit the subscribe button.
Yeah. It used to matter more, but YouTube changed it. And that's why I say it's impossible to try to guess what YouTube is doing or how they're going to run it. That's why I say to give a simple example. So, by the way, Bobbles, since Eric mentioned it, you should probably double his pay too, so that send him an invoice. So, and by the way, those of you who are watching the YouTube version, if you hit the like button, we'll double Eric's payments on the like button.
Oh, great! That's all I need.
Oh, Eric's
it's better than AdSense.
It's amazing, huge. But all I was going to say was, look, to give you an even simpler example, you could run 2 videos on your own channel. Run 2 videos on your own channel, each get 1,000 views, you're going to see 2 different numbers. And you're going to say that like, how's that impossible? It's your channel, same person, same channel, same everything, 1,000 and 1,000. They will not match.
Oh yeah.
Maybe the difference is small, but there will be a difference. And which tells you that it's day by day. It's video dependent. It's like direction of the wind.
What else do we talk about regularly that sounds exactly like what you just described? Grading. Thank you.
So what you're saying is I need a Beckett Black Label RPM?
Yeah, that's what you need.
Eric, do you know a guy? I heard you know a guy.
I may know a guy.
Just saying.
But the real moral to the story is, for any listener, viewer, however you are absorbing this content, if you ever decide to try to start doing a YouTube channel, I would encourage it. It's a lot of fun, but go into it with managing your expectations that you're not going to become a millionaire by turning a camera and a microphone on. You can make some friends, you can have a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of time, patience, and work to actually make money. And most of that does not come from Google AdSense. It comes from the opportunities that growing a channel can create. So I'm never going to tell somebody not to do it, but I will always tell people manage your expectations.
Yeah. No, and I want to make sure we close off because we're right about a time, so we'll wind her down. The point of this conversation, though, was to bookend the discussion about Geoff in the middle, where he used a big platform to build off of that, to do all these other things. The content was a loss leader to build subscriptions from market movers.
Yep.
You know, your issue with the podcast, although we don't know the full exact why, at least one piece of it was having an idea in their head of where they thought, the vision of where they thought this was going, you know, maybe getting a little overexcited when you hadn't really built the platform yet. Bringing it back to the other side of the sandwich, the other piece of bread on the other side of it is that wanted to give a little transparency into what this looks like, not to make anybody feel good, not to make anybody feel bad. It's really just, this is what it is, because there's a misunderstanding of where a lot of this happens. And one of the keys is we're not going to give anybody's numbers. But I do talk shop with some other content creators. We talked about that a little bit on the side. And I'll say it's the same thing. AdSense is a thing, but those that have multiple sponsorships, they'll do better. Those that have good affiliate associations, they do better. I've heard cases that with the right affiliates and the right, it's not even having the most views. It's having people that clicked on the affiliate link and used it and bought things or subscribed to, Market Mover is a good example. They have an affiliate link program. And I can tell you that one of the creators that I know who had that affiliate program did extremely well with it. Extremely well with it. Now, in the long run, is that sustainable? Maybe, maybe not. But it's one of those things where even if it's for 1 year, you were able to max out this thing. That's more than most of these other YouTube channels are going to make in 10 years. Just, it doesn't matter how hard they try to build that platform. Like, there's a limit. There's a cap. And most of us are never going to get 1 million views a month. That's just not going to happen. Doesn't matter what we do. So it's one of those things where that's, for most of us, even if we're doing this, even if it is monetized, it's still got to be a hobby because otherwise it can't be anything else. It has to be a hobby. If we're fortunate enough to have any kind of sponsorship, it's a blessing, so to speak. It's a nice to have, but it's not a guarantee. And again, you're not going to quit your day job over it. No matter what, not in this niche. Yeah, you better take up video games, my friends. Take up video games. That you might have a better shot. Get on Twitch and set that up and get real good at video games. First-person shooters. If you're really good at first-person shooters, maybe you got a shot. Maybe, or Minecraft. I assume that's still a thing. I think get real good at Minecraft.
My daughter, a handful of years ago, because she's 19 now, when she was 10, would sit and watch videos of other people playing Minecraft. And it's like, honey, I bought you Minecraft. Just go play Minecraft. Why are you watching this guy play Minecraft? And she tried to explain to me, but this was what everyone does. And first of all, I don't understand the game. I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But people,
it's kind of like you watching Boston.
Now, see, why you got to be mean? We're trying to be 5%.
He's the herder of feelings. That's the moniker he has.
5% more mature. Why didn't you leave your hate for Fridays?
Imagine how immature he would be on Friday. He would have been a lot. The cruelty would have come out a lot sooner. It would have been a lot more vicious.
The response would be a lot louder.
This right here is with the edge taken off. This is like a poke with the stick instead of a stab with the stick.
You left it open, man. I'm sorry. It was the door. You opened it. And...
The point, jackass, is that millions of people were watching this.
Yes.
Watching some guy in his mother's basement just playing Minecraft.
Look at the aforementioned PewDiePie.
It's unbelievable. And they have become millionaires, multi-millionaires, maybe even crossed into the billions. I'm not 100% sure, but astronomical amounts of money because they played video games live and let people watch them play video games. And now when you ask a young kid, I'm sure you guys already know this, you ask a young kid nowadays, what do you want to be when you grow up? And YouTuber is one of the first top 5 things that these kids say now.
And the second through fifth is sports card influencer.
Influencer.
No, sports card influencer specifically.
Specifically,
It's like Mr. Eric, I want to be a
From
sports card
Canada.
influencer and panhandle.
Yeah.
I want to be a sports card influencer and panhandle.
Yeah. Something, but how do you tell a kid, oh, that's crazy, when a kid just a few years older than them is now worth $250 million because people watch them play video games live? How do you say that? That's ludicrous. Come up with a real okay, kid. If you can make
it's like, no, get a real job and buy a Reggie Lemon jersey and sit in your basement with it like an adult.
That is correct.
The thing is, and being that I have a son right over room that way, I purchased him all of the stuff to do the streaming because he wanted to do it. Okay, you enjoy playing games. I feel a bit too much, but if you're going to be on there doing it, put it to use. Get on and stream. Build you a following and go after it. The problem with it is that what we were just alluding to, people have this vision that so-and-so has become a millionaire, this person's got this following, but the reality is it's not that easy. Right. If it was that easy, everybody would do it.
I learned how to play video games real quick.
People give up because it's not as easy of a dollar as it seems. So that's the reality to it. Again, I think Carlos mentioned it. Doing YouTube is great. It's a wonderful way to have fun. It can be a hobby. I mean, you spend Friday nights for several hours every Friday night. And we're sitting here now, on a Monday night. And it's a lot of fun, but be realistic. Herder of feelings and man, I'm adding titles tonight. Heck yeah!
Look, I want to make sure we do it correctly. So for the folks in the audio version, Bobbles and Ball Carts is now the herder of feelings and the crusher of dreams.
That's like prestiging on Call of Duty. I just upgraded. I love.
Whoa! He just made a Call of Duty. We just get our street cred in the gaming world, Eric, just went up like 5 notches.
Minecraft and Call of Duty references.
I know Call of Duty.
Do we have 1 million views already? What's happening?
Like this might be it, Eric. This might take us to the top. See, the problem is, Bobbles, that some people remain nameless, thought that their fame and fortune would come after 4 episodes. That's for peasants. It's the 5th episode that takes you to the top, the moon.
Fun. And that's when you become powered by Fanatics.
Oh man, it all came together.
Hey, do they have a gaming section? I think they. Aren't they dabbling in the gaming?
They have everything else, Bobbles.
I think they have a little dip in the gaming side too, so it could be.
They got their toe in everything.
I was gonna say, it'd be easier to talk about what they don't have.
Yeah,
true.
It might be a little quicker. So we'll close it up on that thought. If you guys have any last thoughts on this, the only point that I wanted to make was that this little sandwich of topics that do relate to each other. We had a little bit of fun with Bobbles and the whole podcast thing, but the thing is that it led into the theme of the other pieces. It really did, because the idea is that it's a semi-regular topic. I wanted to talk about it again in this format so we could talk out some of the pieces of it, and Bobbles and I could give some specific examples. But the truth is, it's a misconception in a lot of segments of this. It's like, as soon as you monetize and flip it, you must be making a lot of money out of it. It's like, well, most people don't. The vast, the ones who really make what you would consider more than like coffee money is minuscule. Most people are not monetized in the first place. And even the ones that are, the ones who will make more than coffee money, that's smaller still. And then when you're talking about replace your job money, that's even smaller. You keep going 1%, cranking all the way up that scale to the very tippy top, which is like the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. You got to go all the way up the chain. Most people will never get there. And even the ones that do a little bit, anywhere along the way, that's a win. As far as I'm concerned, this is success. If you manage to get anywhere along the way up that chain, congratulations. Good job.
I mean, we have almost 3,000 followers, and that's taken you 4 years doing card content. I know that
don't take. I'm almost 4,900, Eric. Don't take it.
Oh,
Don't take me down a peg. Come on.
I mean, to be honest, I don't pay attention. I just like Bobbles was saying, I do
The
this.
only thing you need to do, Eric, I don't need you to pay attention. I just need you to hit the like button.
Yeah,
That's all I need you to do.
I honestly just do this for fun and to hang out with everybody. I don't pay attention and all that stuff. So all right, so we're almost at 5,000, right? And you've been at this for many years, but say the last 4 for card contents only. With almost 5,000 followers, you're still not making any money. So somebody who just shows up tomorrow on YouTube, I mean, unless you're setting yourself on fire every episode, it's going to take a long time to get.
I pitched this for Kenny so many times. Bubbles, I tried to speak, talk about speaking this into existence. I have tried to speak this into existence.
It got close
many times. He literally set something on fire. He got really upset, and he was setting rappers on fire. If the rappers had been more flammable, if the rappers had been a little more flammable, like Eric, I was this close.
I've set stuff on fire on this channel.
You have.
So I mean, just to wrap it all up, it's going to take you a long time to get a following,
or luck. Let's be fair about this. There are cases. I want to be fair about this. There are cases where you hit the right tone, the right situation, the right moment, and the right thing just catches just right. And then somebody else sits there like, oh, I've been doing this for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. It's like, yeah, sometimes it's just lightning strikes. It happens sometimes.
I tell everybody, because I'm not gonna lie, my content isn't the greatest. I do it for fun. I don't have the highest production value.
Maybe your content should be hurting other people's feelings and crushing their dreams. I would watch the hell out of that.
People think I'm an asshole. My content isn't the most interesting. It's not the highest production value. I do it for fun. Okay. My channel grew because of the pandemic and the timing and luck. And that when I tell people about the card channel, I'm not afraid to admit it. It was dumb luck that I got that SGC order back right at the beginning of the pandemic. PSA shut down, BGS shut down, and people found my channel because I did that silly grade reveal, and it started building up the audience. And then I became the SGC guy. Funny enough, I don't think I mentioned this, but we went to those sales over the weekend. We were down there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I never would have dreamed that I would have been recognized at a yard sale for my sports card channel. That was very interesting, and it actually kind of made me a little proud of what I've done over there, even though it's not the biggest thing. But it's like, okay, it did have a reach. The guy was like, yeah, I know, I've been watching you for a few years. You're the SGC guy and this and that. And I was like, that's crazy. I never would have expected that. So that was pretty cool.
Now, this was part of a 35-minute phone call that I had with Bobbles, and shout out to Mrs. Bobbles, who was part of that conversation as well. So I got to hear a lot of elements of it. That's why we wanted to share part of it. So go ahead, Eric, before I wind us down and give final thoughts.
Unless you get lucky, you're not going to be YouTube successful overnight. It is going to take a long, long time. And even after years of doing it, and building up your following, you're still not going to make a lot of money. If you think you're going to wake up tomorrow, start a YouTube channel, quit your job, and become a millionaire, you're an idiot.
Well, you can start a YouTube channel, quit your job. You can do 2/3 of that. The third part might be probably the most important, but you can definitely do 2 out of 3 of that.
Using that for content, though, might actually get views.
I was going to say that might work.
As dumb as it is, that might actually get you popular.
All I'm going to say is I'm reminded of Office Space with what you said there a moment ago. I'm reminded of Office Space because if you remember the main guy, he was asked, what would you do if you had $1 million? And he goes, I think he said, like, I quit my job and do nothing all day. And then the other guy is like, you don't need $1 million to do that, man. And he was like, what? now, there's a problem that may come from but quitting your job and not doing nothing all day. As a matter of fact, you don't need $1 million to do that. You don't. You can, in fact, do that. You're probably missing something that may become an issue at some point, but that could be tomorrow's problem. Not recommended.
No.
Not financial advice. Not financial advice at all. So on that final thought, Bobbles and Ball cards, and also 540 flips. So we're gonna make sure we cover those two channels, since those ones you haven't angered the Bobbles and Ball card guy, and you haven't angered the 540 flips guy so far that we know of. Eric is at Sanderson Door on Instagram. He has no YouTubes because he already stares at a screen enough in this format. That's right. That's a nod for the people in the audio version of it. Otherwise, you can check out the links in the description of this. I will include a link to the Sports Card Investor reveal of the mock-ups and concept and design of the card shop. We spent a good chunk of the episode talking about that, so if you really want to know exactly what it was, and again, I do recommend, if you're curious, I do recommend checking it out. Come to your own conclusion. We gave a bunch of scenarios and possibilities. They're all theories. They're all just theories based on what we know of what he's done in the past, what possibilities are there. It's pure speculation based on literally nothing other than what's possible based on what they've shown and said so far. And then we'll see. We could be literally over. We could be not even close on any of it. Or there's some of it could come to pass in some capacity that, or maybe something we haven't even thought of or foreseen yet could be a part and parcel of the idea. And we'll also find out what relationship, if any, Fanatics has with it, who, if anybody else, will partner up with it, like what possibilities are. I can imagine a lot of stuff going on with the content machine they got going on over there. It would not shock me if there's some influencer marketing that'll happen as part of that. I'm sure there'll be content of people visiting that shop to check it out, if nothing else. So there'll definitely be some content coming out of that. I guarantee. Of that, I am certain.
Puck drops tomorrow night. All will be well.
And then next week, much to Eric's pleasure, we will talk about the hockeys. We will devote a segment to the hockeys. We will devote a solid segment to the hockeys. So if y'all like the hockeys, we will discuss that. We will discuss the hockeys. So that'll be our official episode. We'll all be decked out appropriately in appropriate garb. So now you know.
And just real quick, the Bruins open up against Chicago, against their former teammates, Nick Foligno, Taylor Hall, and new phenom Bedard. So it's going to be a great opening night. Either way, it's going to be the talk of the town, Bruins versus Chicago. So looking forward to it.
Oh my God. Connor Bedard.
We'll have to make a list of some predictions. I think that would be fun 100%. For all of us to do some predictions.
We'll definitely discuss that. But also, I'm thinking now that he's mentioned that, oh my God, Connor Bedard could get to the 70 points in one game. I might win my bet. I might win my bet on night one. Oh my God, this is amazing.
You're so lucky it's Monday.
This is insane. Bubbles, I'm getting excited. I'm going to win this so fast. It's going to be incredible. I've never won a bet so quickly before. This is amazing, especially a season-long bet. This is good. This is good. All right, folks. So a pleasure chatting with you is all through the virtual landscape that is this. Back for other episodes. More videos coming up on the channel as always. And on Fridays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, is the live stream where it's 5% less mature than this. Believe it or not, it's 5% less mature. We held back. Again, we were using sticks, but they weren't fully sharpened. They're just pokey sticks and not like super sharpened, like will cut your flesh sticks.
Marshmallow tipped.
Yeah, just really taking it easy. We're taking it easy, easing into the week.
We put them
then by
over
Friday
the
they'll be
fire
fully
on
sharpened,
Fridays.
and we're going straight for the jugular on Friday. We're not holding back. We're going straight forward. And I also want to thank once again AMG Collectibles, who were nice enough to sponsor whatever this is. Bless you people. Bless you wonderful, wonderful people at AMGcollectibles.com and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, where you will see myself and other members of the AMG team talk about some of the stuff coming up. And spoiler, Series 1 is coming. And we're definitely going to get a chance to talk about that. That's going to be obviously a big thing. Bedard stuff there'll be more in Series 2, but I'm sure there'll be some surprises in Series 1 for us. I can almost assure you of that. And that's obviously one of the most popular ones of the year. By the way, good move, Upper Deck, before the Expo. Getting Series 1 out. Good move, guys. Good move. And we'll definitely talk about the Expo when we get a little closer to it. But like I said, next week will be the Hockey's episode. All right. So that's it for myself, Eric Sanderson to Orr, Bobbles and Ball Cards, 540 Flips, Herder of Feelings, Crusher of Dreams. We will catch you in the next episode.